The 2026 offseason has brought a ton of changes to the entire Arizona Cardinals franchise. Not only do they hire a new head football coach in Mike LaFleur, they move on from their longtime quarterback Kyler Murray. And while this isn't a complete reset in Arizona, they do keep the GM Monty Ossenford, although he is probably on the hot seat himself. They do hire a brand new coach in Mike LaFleur. They move on from Kyler Murray, and this franchise is in a completely different spot in 2026 than it was just last year in 2025. So in this one, I just want to talk about the direction of the Cardinals. They're not really in a spot necessarily right now where they're doing all the things to make them a good team, but they're setting up the stages to hopefully one day make them a good team in the future. Of course, we're going to talk about the elephant in the room, Kyler Murray, and just how they moved on from his contract and what that means really for the future of the Arizona Cardinals. He was obviously their big ticket item. He was the quarterback. So moving on from a player like that, a player on any team, not just Kyler Murray, but moving on from the quarterback and your biggest ticket item on your football team, obviously that's going to have repercussions, and it's going to be felt throughout the entire roster. So resetting the roster this year and just taking a look forward as to what this team can maybe look like in 27, 28, and 2029. So without further ado, let's just talk a little bit about the Cardinals 2026 offseason. And let's just start with Kyler Murray here. The Arizona Cardinals do post-June 1 cut. Kyler Murray, obviously, he goes and signs with Minnesota. All good things there. Hope Kyler does well in Minnesota, obviously. But as for Arizona, moving on from him and post-June 1ing him, you are taking your medicine right now on this player. We talked about it with the Tua contract in the Dolphins video. There is no good way to get out of these big contracts when it doesn't work. It's great when your guy is Patrick Mahomes or even a guy like Jared Goff, things like that, where the guy is working out and actively playing, good quarterback. Of course, different levels to this with Jared Goff and Patrick Mahomes. But a guy like Kyler Murray that you paid and you really just couldn't continue the operation. This is a guy that you surrounded or with pieces around. You had DeAndre Hopkins, you had all these pieces. Even right now, Trey McBride and the different pieces of Kyler Murray, the different pieces in the Kyler Murray area. It kind of feels like this team was capped out with Murray. Obviously, they feel the same way. So they're going in a different direction and they are tearing it all down. And that starts with post-June 1 in Kyler Murray. And personally, I think this is a good move here by the LaFleur Ossenford combination, whatever you want to call it, marriage. I think this is a good move, a good starting move. I mean, I know Ossenford's been there, since 23, something like that. But making this move and signaling a brand new direction with a brand new coach. We're going to talk about the 2027 draft and what that might mean for them. But doing this right now, getting it out of the way and taking your medicine, so to speak, I think that's a good move here from the Arizona Cardinals, and just taking this thing in a completely different direction and you couldn't hold on to Kyler Murray if this is what you were going to do, but not fooling around, not trying to hold on to the guy and make it work or, try to get a premium asset in a trade. They saw what the market was. They cut bait. And I think that's good for both sides. Good for Kyler. He gets, he had his choice of the litter. He could pick where he kind of wanted to go. And good for the Cardinals, kind of clearing their books, resetting this thing and trying to get. And we're going to talk about how many guys they have on the roster here in 2027. So just getting rid of this now and doing it now sets them up into the future to make moves. And you heard me mention about the 2027 roster, so let's talk about it now. I believe the Cardinals only have 28 guys under contract right now today in 2026 for 2027. Only like 28 guys under contract for next year. So obviously the world is kind of your oyster if you're Monty Ossenford and Mike LaFleur. So only having this many guys on the roster, you're actually 31st as of right now in cap allocations for 2027 if you're the Arizona Cardinals. So all of this is telling me you are setting this thing up to really shape it in the image that you're looking for here. This is going to be a complete teardown, or what should be at least, what appears to be a complete teardown. And this is the perfect time to do it. You really don't have anybody on the roster. You're really only paying a couple guys, Budda Baker and Josh Sweat. We're going to talk about them a little bit later and just their contract implications and maybe how we can flip those guys into some assets here. But like I said, being 31st in the total cap allocations means you got a lot of money to spend, and you're coming up on a really, really solid 2027 draft class. But having the opportunity with not a ton of bad money on the books here, just having that opportunity to completely reset this roster, probably around a brand new quarterback in 2027. I'm assuming Jacoby Brissett is probably not going to be their long-term starter here. So assuming you take a guy in 2027 or beyond 2028, whatever it may be, preparing the roster for this next guy, you have the exact opportunity you need to do that. There's not a whole lot of guys on the roster, and like we said, not a whole lot of money on the roster. But there are two guys that we did mention, and the first guy is Budda Baker, and I think the Cardinals should probably move on from Budda Baker Baker this offseason. I know we're kind of getting late into the offseason window, but if there is a trade to be had, I feel like moving Budda Baker, giving him an opportunity to go, he's coming into his age 30 season this year, giving him that opportunity to go on ahead and, I don't want to say chase a ring, because he still has a ton of good football left, but give him an opportunity to go use that good football on a good team and let him go compete. Obviously, not a ton of dead money here. Looking at his contract, really you're only counting for that prorated signing bonus that you did all those years ago, right, when he signed the deal. That's really the only thing we're accounting for, I believe, here in our dead money. So to trade him really doesn't have a ton of repercussions. So I think moving on from a guy that's going into his age 30 season, that has a ton of good football, has played a ton of great football, moving on from him, cashing in, so to speak, I think would be a great move for Arizona if they decide to go that route. Of course, I could also see Budda Baker just being a lifer. Not sure I could see him in anything but a Cardinals jersey, just kind of fits out there. And obviously has been a great player for them. So understand if that's, one of your core pieces. You got to pay somebody. You have to have somebody on the books. You have to have at least a few guys, obviously. So if they would just decide to keep Budda on the books, completely understand that as well. Mentor these young guys, show them the new Arizona Cardinals way, so to speak. I think Budda would be a great candidate for that. But just the idea of flipping him, getting, maybe a premium asset, I don't think is a bad idea either. But just throwing out ideas for these players under contract on the team. Obviously you're looking in 2027. You're probably not going to be a great team in 27, so, looking at these bigger ticket items, how can we cash in and make the most of them? And then obviously we did mention Josh Sweat too, just another player, kind of the other big ticket guy, so to speak, on the roster. So you have to think about how can we get the most out of this asset here. Whether that be another guy that you can just say, hey, we have you under contract, we're going to keep you on the team, we think you're a valuable asset. Obviously he just came over last year, I think he had 12 sacks, obviously a pretty good year. But if this is the type of guy that maybe you don't see being around long term, or you think you can flip for, a second round pick or something like that, he comes out and has another, double-digit sack season, 15 sack season, maybe this is a guy that it isn't a clean fit just to get out of the contract, but if you can get, a premium pick with this, a premium pick for, a top-tier pass rusher, I don't know necessarily top-tier, but a very, very, very good pass rusher, maybe that's something you take up as well. Obviously, like I said, you're not getting out of the contract scot-free or anything like that, but just an idea, as a guy, maybe you cash in on, you're at least thinking about the long-term future of Josh Sweat on the team for sure. And of course, like I said, that's either way, whether that's a guy you decide to keep on the roster, again, you got to pay somebody, so you might as well pay your own, the guys that you had on the team already, and that you like and everything like that. But again, I would understand, seeing what the market is out there. And of course, it does take two to tango. Obviously, you can't this isn't Madden where you just go pick a team and you go trade into them. So while obviously you do need two to tango, just two players that I would look into the future for the Cardinals to maybe deal or maybe even extend. Maybe these are extension candidates, and you keep that cap number down, and you keep these guys around. And just a last quick point I want to talk about, Arizona has all their draft picks. In all 7 rounds of the draft here for these next 3 drafts, they have all of their own picks, which is just amazing. Obviously, you don't want to be trading away your own picks. If you plan to not be a great team and everything like that, you don't be giving away high picks. So just having their entire own drafts, plus, what you could get for Budda, what you could get for Josh Sweat in the future, I think they're in a good spot to, really reset this roster. They have a ton of money, a ton of spots to be had on the roster. So I think all these things signal, new coach, not a new GM, but maybe a new GM on the way here if this year doesn't pan out. But regardless, signaling an entire new direction for this franchise, I think that's exactly what you need. And I think you have the tools to do it here in Arizona. Like I said, you have the picks, you have the money, and you have the spots that are open that you're hopefully going to fill with really good players in the future, just around this hopeful quarterback of the future, whenever it is that you select him. But that's really all I have for this one, guys. I hope you did enjoy. If you enjoy this style of content, enjoy this style of video, go ahead and subscribe. Obviously, we're still trying to build that video base, still trying to build that subscriber base, but just give me a like, everything like that. Let me know positive, negative criticism, whatever it is. We're trying to make these videos better every single time. But I think that's all I wanted to talk about in this one. I do appreciate you watching, and I appreciate you staying to the end, and I hope to see you in the next one.